Hello students. Now in this particular video I'll be giving you the summary of the poem My Last Duchess along with a few points related to the critical appreciation of the same poem. Now first of all, let's begin with the summary of the poem. The speaker, that is the Duke, directs the attention of a guest to a painting of his former wife, the Duchess, which hangs on the wall. The Duke praises the painting for looking so lifelike and then remarks on how hard the painter, Fra Pendolf, worked on it. The Duke asks the guest to sit and look at the work. The Duke then explains that he deliberately mentioned the name of the painter because strangers like the emissary always look at the Duchess' painted face with its deep, passionate, and earnest glance, and then turn to the Duke, and only the Duke, since only he pulls back the curtain that reveals the painting, and act as though they would ask, if they dared to ask, how such an expression came into her face. The Duke reiterates that the guest isn't the first person to ask this question. The Duke continues by saying that it wasn't only his presence that brought that look into the painted eyes of the Duchess or the blush of happiness into her painted cheek. He suggests that perhaps Fra Pendolf had happened to compliment her by saying that a shawl drapes over her wrist too much, or paint could never recreate the faint half blush that's fading on her throat. The Duke insists that the former Duchess thought that polite comments like those were reason enough to blush, and criticizes her in a halting way for being too easily made happy or impressed. He also claims that she liked everything and everyone she saw, although his description suggests that she was trying to impress everyone who crossed her path. The Duke objects that, to his former Duchess, everything was the same and made her equally happy, whether it was a gift given by some foolish wooer or a present from him that she wore at her chest, the sun setting in the west, a branch of cherries given by some person interested in her, or the white mule she rode on around the terrace. He claims that she would say the same kind of words or give the same blush in response to all of them. The Duke also objects to her manner of thanking men, although he struggles to describe his concerns. Specifically, he complains that she values his pedigree and social position of 900-year-old name as equally important to anyone else's gift to her. The Duke rhetorically asks whether anyone would actually lower themselves enough to argue with someone about their behavior. The Duke imagines a hypothetical situation in which he would confront the former Duchess. He says that even if he were good with words and were able to clearly say that this characteristic of the Duchess disgusted him, or there she was exceeding her limit, and if the former Duchess had let herself be degraded by changing instead of being stubborn and making excuses, even then the act of confronting her would be beneath his dignity, and he refuses to ever lower himself like that. The Duke then returns to his earlier refrain about his former wife's indiscriminate happiness and complains to his guest that while the Duchess did smile at him whenever he passed, she gave everyone else the same smile as well. The Duke explains that she began smiling at others even more So he gave orders, and all her smiles stopped forever, presumably because he had her killed. Now she only lives on in the painting. The Duke then asked the guest to stand up and to go with him to meet the rest of the guests downstairs. He also says that the Count, revealed here as the guest's master and the father of the Duke's prospective bride to be, is so known for his generosity in matters of money that no request the Duke could make for a dowry would be turned down. The Duke also adds quickly that he has always insisted since the beginning of their discussions that the Count's beautiful daughter, and not the dowry, is his primary objective. The Duke ends his speech by demanding that he and the Count's emissary go downstairs together, and on their way, he directs the emissary's attention to a statue of the god Neptune taming a seahorse, which is a rare work of art that Claus of Innsbruck cast in bronze specially for the Duke. Now, with this, I complete the summary of the poem. And now I will be giving you certain points based on the critical appreciation of this poem, My Last Duchess. My Last Duchess is one of the most famous poems of Browning. It reveals his philosophy and his poetic craftsmanship. It also shows his mastery of the dramatic monologue, for which he is so famous in English literature. Browning's monologues grow out of some crisis or critical situation in the life of the principal figure and embody the reaction of that figure to the particular situation. Placed in such a situation, the chief figure, the speaker of the monologue, indulges in self-analysis and self-introspection, and in this way his soul is laid bare in the poem. This applies fully to this monologue too. It gives an analysis of the character of the Duke and his last Duchess, and the messenger of the neighboring Count forms the listener and the interlocutor. The poem is rich in characterization. It is a kind of character study of the Duke and his Duchess. The tyranny, the pride, the self-conceit, the hard-heartedness, the dictatorial attitude and greed of the Duke has been thrown into sharp contrast to the genial and good nature of the Duchess. The Duchess is a frank-hearted, charming girl with a genial disposition and best for life. But all her impressions of delight and her frank innocence, uncorrupted by the ways of the world, received only a cold reception at the hands of her husband, that is the Duke. The style of the monologue is epigrammatic. The poem is lucid and clear. It is written in heroic couplets, but as the sense runs from one line to another, the readers are hardly conscious of the rhyme. The poem has a pictorial quality attached to it, as it is easy for the readers to imagine the entire setting of the poem, the entire development of the plot of the poem. This poem is definitely the finest example of a dramatic monologue, as it encompasses all the features that makes up for an ideal piece of dramatic monologue. Now with this, we finish the poem. We complete the poem, My Last Duchess. Thank you.